ver. Acho que agora vai. Agora foi, aqui, ó. Apareceu o vermelhinho de gravação, né? Beleza, deixa eu compartilhar a tela. Então a Lara começa, né? Olha, desculpa, a Denise começa? Isso. Vou começar, tá? Gente, me escutam? Posso começar então? Legal? Okay, so thank you very much for the invitation. My name is Felipe Pazzello, and I'm going to talk about a very famous artist from Germany. And he's considered to be the German master of Renaissance. He's one of my favorite artists of all time. His name is Albrecht Dürer. Forgive me for my poor pronunciation in German. I'm sorry. I'm not a German speaker. I'm not proficient in German. But his name is Albrecht Dürer. Okay? So, as you can see, I have my name here, and you can talk to me in three different ways. I have my Instagram account, Intérprete Pazzello, my personal email, felipeprado@uol.com.br, and my LinkedIn account, Felipe Pazzello. So, this is the structure of the presentation. How I met Dürer, who was he, famous works, Melancholia #1, which is one of his most famous works, Hypothesis, and Project All. I like this word, all. Okay, so now let's talk about the first idea, which is how I met Dürer. And to be really honest, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't remember, in fact. I think it happened, I would say, 10 years ago. Maybe most probably on the internet. I was talking to somebody, or I Googled something about Da Vinci or about another Renaissance master such as Raphael or Michelangelo, but I really do not remember how I got involved in Dürer's works or anything connected to him. Okay, but somehow I learned lots of things about Dürer. Okay, and I would say that the first thing I think, right? I think the first piece that he had made is this one, the one that struck my attention. This is called Melancholia #1. We are going to discuss this engraving in more detail with more details in 1 minute, right? But I think this is the piece that attracted my attention. Okay, called Melancholia #1, right? But now let's go back to our present time, right? So I would say 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I taught in a very big school in Higienópolis, which is a neighborhood, a district in São Paulo, Brazil. And this is the real shop Saraiva next door. And I remember that I saw this book here, this very book called Dürer, written by a man called Norbert Wolf, published by Taschen, which is a very famous German publisher, specialized in art. And when I saw that cover, I thought it was Jesus. I kind of knew that name, Dürer. It rang a bell. But when I saw that image, I thought it was Jesus. So that grabbed my attention. So Jesus, right? But what is the connection between Jesus and Germany, right? But then I realized that in fact this man was not Jesus, although he was Jesus-like. And here we have his name and other sentences in Latin, and I love Latin. So this grabbed my attention. And as you can see, we have the year of the piece, 1500, so really old. And we have his signature, Albrecht Dürer, right? So I found this to be really enigmatic. It attracted my attention. So I decided, when I went to that store, to Sarah Meg's store, there were two books. There were two copies of that book. So what I did, guys, I'm sorry for telling you this. I did something bad. I got one copy and I moved it to a different shelf, okay? Because I wanted to buy it, but it was a bit expensive. It was 100 reais. And I didn't have that amount of money. I think I had 70 or 60. So now you can find the book for 60, I think. But back then in 2015, 14, it cost 100 reais. So I did that. I got the book, put it in a different shelf, and then somebody bought the other copy. So thank God I did that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have the book. But please, it's something. I mean, I feel embarrassed for telling you this, but this is true. Okay. So eventually, I bought the book, and I learned. I read the book, and I learned more about him. So first things first, who was he? So he was born in 19. I'm sorry, he was born in 1471 and died in 1528. And he was born in Nuremberg, which is a German city, a very famous German city. And he was a polymath. So I would say that the most important polymath of all time is Da Vinci, right? He's the polymath of the polymath. This is which means when you know lots of things about lots of things. He was a genius. People say that a polymath is a person that knows a bit of everything, but I do not buy that. You know lots of things about lots of things. And this man was a polymath. He knew lots of things concerning geometry, engravings, and watercolors. In fact, I'm not an artist. I do not know art. I love art, but I do not know any specific details on art. But Dürer is considered to be the master of watercolors, the biggest master of watercolors. In fact, Faber-Castell, the company, pencil company, has released a new edition called Albrecht Dürer Watercolors. So just for you to realize how important he is, right, for arts. Okay, so those are some details about Albrecht Dürer. And here, now we're going to talk about famous works. Okay, we have tons of works, but I have chosen 3 or 4. The first one, as you can see, I think it's beautiful. It is entitled Wing of a European Roller. It's a watercolor. As you can see, it was painted in 1512. And here you have his signature. One thing that I haven't mentioned, that although he was German, his family was from Hungary. So Dürer in German, in Old German, means gate. And that word comes from Hungarian. So I think his signature looks like a gate or some kind of door. I like that. So it's an enigma, something. It is the entrance to a different realm, I would say. So this is a very famous piece by Dürer. And now we have, this is one of the most famous works by Dürer, which is called Praying Hands. Dürer was, although people are not so sure if Dürer was Catholic or Lutheran, some people say he was Catholic, other people say he was Lutheran. But if you go to Germany, for Catholics or Lutherans, 90% of religious people would have one of those copy of this painting in their houses. So it conveys the idea of getting connected to God, right? Of course, praying hands. And we have here one of my favorites, which is Saint Jerome in his study. We know that Saint Jerome is the patron saint for translators and interpreters. He's my personal hero. And as you can see, this, although it looks like it was made in pencil, in fact, this is an engraving. So what is an engraving? Dürer got a piece of wood and he used a chisel and he would hammer that piece of wood with that chisel. So this is not painted. This is engraved in the wood. So he would use wood and copper. In this case, we have wood, right? And as you can see, we have a hat here on top of, above Saint Jerome's hat, which conveys that he was a cardinal. So he was a very important person in the church. Although he was not a real cardinal, he was a predominant figure, right, in the church back then. Why? Because he was in charge of translating the Bible from Hebrew and Greek to Latin. But because back then the copies of the Bible were in Greek, the Bible was called Septuagint, and Saint Jerome was in charge of the Vulgata, which is the direct translation from Hebrew, from the Old Testament, and from Koine Greek, from the New Testament, to Latin. So can you imagine the amount of effort he had to put into to translate from Hebrew and from Greek to Latin by hand with no cat tools and no Google, right? So it demands lots of work, right? So that's it. So this is an engraving. And here we have, just for curiosity, some of Dürer's signatures in various paintings and various engravings. So he was the first artist of all time to have a signature. Before him, no artist would sign his pieces or her pieces. So he was the first person on earth in the history of art to sign his pieces, either by engraving or by painting. So now we have another, here, I'm sorry, we have a quote by Dürer, one of his most famous quotes: "Geometry is the foundation of all painting." Once again, my friends, I'm not a mathematician, I'm not an artist, right? But I found this quote to be really interesting because it emphasizes, for obvious reasons, the role of mathematics, the role of proportion in his works. All right? So here we have my favorite piece, which is Melancholia #1, right? Which is an engraving as well. It is made on wood. It is engraved on wood. So now I invite you to, I will stop speaking for 15 seconds, right? And I ask you please to have a look at this engraving and just feel it. So do not think, do not talk to anyone, just feel it. So now I'm going to be quiet for 15 seconds. Lots of objects, right? Lots of interesting creatures, I must say, right? So I have highlighted some of those pieces, okay, for us to discuss really briefly. So the first one, as you can see, is a solid, a geometrical solid. This is something new. Dürer created this solid. This solid is not Euclidean. So it is not, of course, a sphere. It is not an octagon. It is not a normal polyhedron. It is a brand new polyhedron that Dürer came up with. That's why this solid is called Dürer's solid. And why did he do that? I don't know. In fact, no one does. It's an enigma. Why we have a solid, I mean, that solid, which is not perfect, apparently, it is not symmetrical here, okay? Let me go back to the previous slide. As you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but some people say there is a face here, all right? Some people say lots of things. There is a kind of a spot here, a whitish spot. So people say that this is an image or a face of somebody, but who's that person? Allegedly, nobody knows, right? Was this made on purpose? No, right? I'm just sharing what I know, okay? So now let's go back to the other details. We have the name of the engraving, the title of the engraving, which is Melancholia 1. So as you can see, Melancholia spelled with the ni is Latin. So it's not German, it is not English, it is not Greek, it is Latin, right? Melancholia #1. And then people would ask me, but what the hell is that? What the hell is this animal? Is that a mouse, a flying mouse? Is that a rat? I don't know, right? There are lots of theories on that, which I'm going to discuss very briefly in 5 minutes, okay? But there are lots of theories. Okay, we do have this ladder here, which is leaning against the tower, right? So as you can see, we have one, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7 steps. So why does this ladder have 5 steps? I don't know, right? There are lots of theories, lots of hypotheses, right? We have a cherub here, a cherub on top of a wheel, apparently. And of course, as you can see, we have this big angel. So I'm sorry, let me just go back to something that I forgot to mention. We have a dog, as you can see, right? We have lots of tools. We have a compass, and we have a sphere and a dog. Quite skinny, right? I would say it doesn't look so healthy, right? And we have the ladder, as I've just mentioned, with the 7 steps. And we have the angel. So the question is this any angel? Is this angel female or male? Or can we ascribe a gender to an angel? I don't know, right? But lots of people say that they found who this angel is. So it's not any angel, it is a specific angel, okay, which has a name that I'm going to talk about in 1 second. It's a mystery, okay? So we have this angel, and he or she doesn't look that happy. It this angel looks rather melancholic, right? So maybe that's why the engraving is called Melancholia number 1, right? So maybe. So now and we have, as you can see, the famous magic square. Let me go back to a previous slide just to contextualize what I'm saying. Look, so we have the magic square, right? On top of it, we have a bell and the angel beneath it, below it. So let's just use some basic math. As you can see, we have 16, 5, 9, and 4. So 16 plus 5, 21, plus 9, 30, plus 4, 30 plus 4, 34. So all the columns add up to 34. And all the rows add up to 34 as well. The main diagonals add up to 34. So 6 plus 10, 36, plus 7, 33, plus 1, 34. 34 here as well. The first quadrant here, 34, 34 here, 34 here as well, and here as well, the middle ones as well. We have 52 combinations. There are 52 ways of reaching the number 34. And my question is, why is the number 34 here? I don't know. People are studying why he has chosen 34. Why not 33 or 35? But there are lots of hypotheses, right? So I'm just showing you what I know, okay? So forgive me for my lack of knowledge, all right? And okay, so now let's talk briefly about some hypotheses. Uh, People say, in fact, Dürer was a polymath, as I've just mentioned, so he knew lots of things about lots of things, and he was a polyglot as well. So he would speak German, he would speak Hungarian, he would speak Latin, Greek, and Hebrew, right? So the thing is, he was an expert in gematria. So basically, what is gematria? Gematria is Jewish mathematics. In Hebrew, we know that each letter is connected to a number. That is a characteristic of the Hebrew language, which I do not speak, right? So, for instance, we have the first word in the alphabet, the Hebrew alphabet, Aleph. Aleph means number 1. Bent means number 2. Shin means number 3. So each letter is connected to a different number. So why am I saying this? That's why in Hebrew you cannot translate the Bible. The Bible has to be understood in Hebrew, because if you translate that to a different version, you are changing a divine language. You are changing the total amount, total mathematical procedure. So the result will be different. So you cannot add any extra letter. You have to keep it as the way it is, as Moses allegedly received from God, because the Bible to the Jewish, the Torah, is God's words. So it's not something that men have or women have created. It is God's words, right? So they cannot be changed. And of course, Dürer was an expert in Kabbalah. And what is Kabbalah? It is the mystical study of symbols and mathematics by the Jewish. So that's why one thing cannot go without the other. So gematria is the use of mathematics. And Kabbalah not only are using mathematics, but also the divine names of God and divine names of the angels. And by combining those elements, by combining those Hebrew names, you have something magical, you have something special. So that's why many people say that the magic square, in fact, let me go back to the square for a second, the magic square is a cipher. So there is a sequence. So we have 1 here, 2 is here. So maybe we have a sequence to be followed, and that sequence would yield a sentence, for instance, or each number will be connected to a different letter in Hebrew, in Latin, in Greek, I don't know. But lots of people say lots of things. Okay? All right, so now let's go back to the presentation. So I have mentioned Gematria and Kabbalah. And now, just to wrap up, I'm going to mention a project called Project Awe. AWE, Project Awe. So I'm an interpreter as well, and I practice interpreting at Interpret to Be. And I know that my friends, my fellow interpreters, Denise Chipolu and Laura and Nina, they are also interpreters. And 2 months ago, after a class I interpret to be, I tried to relax, and I was on my couch, just relaxing, eating popcorn. And I was just browsing for new Dürer videos on YouTube. And I found this video here. It is 53 minutes long. And when I pressed play, I had to watch it until the end. I was mesmerized by the richness of this lecture. This lady here, the presenter, she's a historian. She's a Russian historian, and has got a PhD in museology, right? And although she was born in Russia, she lives in Los Angeles. And that lecture was amazing. And she explained, and she taught many theories on the solid, on Hebrew, because she does speak Hebrew as well. She's Jewish. So she has a team of experts from different fields that study Hebrew and Rembrandt and Rubens and other masters for the Renaissance, and Dürer included, and the symbolism, all the symbols in those masterpieces. At the end of that lecture, I had to talk to her. So on LinkedIn, I found her personal account, and we talked, and she gave me her personal email. And I sent her an email and told her that I would be delighted to translate her book about Dürer into Brazilian Portuguese. And she said she felt really happy for having a person in Brazil that liked Dürer. And now I'm in charge. She's still giving the final touches on that book. So now I'm in charge of translating the book into Portuguese by the end of, I don't know, maybe December or January in 2021. Okay, so let's see what happens. All right, and let me just, yes, and here's the website of the project called Project AW. AW is an acronym. A stands for aesthetics, W stands for Western, and E stands for esotericism. So the whole acronym stands for Aesthetics of Western Esotericism. And I'm now in that website. As you can see, I have my ugly face on the website. So I do not earn anything for that. It's a volunteer project. I'm there. I'm in charge of translating the book. And by talking to her, I would say on a weekly basis, I share my hypothesis and she shares hers. So not only me, but I have chosen, we have here many people, but in the team, we have, I think, 40 experts. I'm not an expert in anything, right? But we have here this gentleman who is an expert in math. We have lots of gentlemen and ladies who are experts in history and mathematics and physics. So I'm in charge of the translation. All right. So that's it. I know maybe it was a bit fast. Thank you very much for the attention. Thank you very much, my fellow interpreters, for helping me. Right. Thank you for the patience. So if you have any questions, talk to me via my Instagram account, my personal email, or my LinkedIn account. Thank you. Aí, Denise!
Parabéns!
Oh, meu Deus!
Muito bem!
Posso parar de gravar? Pode parar de gravar, Denise? Pode gravar?
Pode.
Parar.